The latest polls in this race, the average of polls, the Fox index, if you will, has Hillary Clinton with a 2.2 point lead over Donald Trump, and that includes some polls out today and yesterday. Let's bring in our panel. Steve Hayes, senior writer for the Weekly Standard. Ed O'Keefe, reporter with the Washington Post. Tucker Carlson, host of Fox and Friends Weekend, and we welcome Phil Musser, chairman of Image and former senior advisor to Mike Pence. Gentlemen, thanks for being here. Phil, let me start with you. This is Mike Pence's big night. You know, he likes to say he's vanilla, but what about tonight? What will he do?
Look, I think there'll be more than vanilla, but this is just kind of a second reintroduction for Mike Pence to America. Most of America doesn't really know who Governor Pence is, but he's got a chance to really talk about what he's done in the Congress. I expect that he'll talk about his foreign policy experience in the Congress, his leadership in the Congress, and someone who knows how to help make Washington work. And then he's got a terrific track record in the state of Indiana, growing the economy, balancing the budget, really investing in education. And so his job tonight, I think, will be show that he is a steady second hand to Donald Trump, who can help him bring the real change that Trump's talking about in this
Traditionally,
campaign.
What trips him up?
Traditionally, what trips up Mike Pence? You know, I think I'm going to have to duck that question, Brett.
Yeah, I know.
I
thought I'd ask you.
I think this is a big moment, and I think Pence is ready. You know, he's practiced. They've been methodical. They've got a plan. They've executed well. He's got a good team of advisors around him. I think he's going to be in there, you know, ready. I'm watching the pivots.
If Donald Trump answered that question, he would just head on say something trips him up, and that the pivot. Yeah. Ed, what do you think? Fiery? What is tonight?
I hope there's at least a little conversation about issues, but I do think both of these guys have a fair amount of work to introduce themselves to the crowd that may show up and tune in. I'm struck by, I think now, 4 polls in the last few days that suggest at least 35% of Americans don't know one of these two guys. Pence actually better known than Kaine, and, you know, both of them, I think, have some explaining to do. Look, the nation's on the verge of either electing the oldest guy or the second oldest person ever elected president, and I think Americans have a bit of a responsibility to be aware of who the number 2 could be in the event that something were to happen. Their doctors claim they're in great health. Look, take that with a grain of salt in both cases, perhaps, but it's worth considering that possibility tonight.
Steve, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Mike Pence will turn his attacks toward Hillary Clinton, which is typical of a vice presidential debate. That's what they've been doing in debate prep. Scott Walker's been playing Tim Kaine, apparently insisting on being in character the entire time. So when Mike Pence walks in, Scott Walker sticks out his hand as Tim Kaine. So I think
of the energy and intensity in that room. Scott Walker, Mike Pence, head to head.
Going at it. So I think Pence will turn his attacks to Hillary Clinton. But I also think he has an opportunity here to make conservatives who are uncomfortable with Donald Trump more comfortable with Donald Trump. I mean, Mike Pence is a conservative. He speaks the language of conservatives. He doesn't need focus groups to remember what to say to conservatives. This comes naturally to him. And I think what he hopes to do is put people at ease who have concerns about Donald Trump and his ideology, his philosophy.
What about Tim Kaine, Tucker? I mean, he'll be on the attack, obviously trying to link Pence with Trump and probably go after temperament again and again and again?
Well, I mean, he's going to try and tie Pence to Trump. I mean, the whole debate is going to be that, and that is exactly the moment that Pence gets tripped up, because he has to defend Trump, both because he's a subordinate partner in this relationship, of course, that's why it's tough to be the VP candidate, but because also Trump demands that. Trump wants to be defended by his VP. And Pence wins if he takes it to 35,000 feet. He is an ideologue, as Steve said. He's a former talk show host. He's a frequent guest or used to be on talk shows. He's a good debater. But if he pulls it up and says, look, the country is a mess. That's why you've been considering voting for Trump in the first place, and your running mate, Hillary Clinton, is part of the reason it is. If he can keep it there, he wins. If they're down in the weeds defending, you know, this or that comment from Trump, that is not good.
You know, there's an interesting moment the day after the debate, the last debate, where Mike Pence appeared on Fox, on America's Newsroom, and did an interview, and he said, this is not so much about candidate versus candidate as it is differing visions, which is an interesting way to frame it. I mean, it's not a way that a typical vice presidential candidate would frame it. I thought it was interesting. I think the Clinton campaign is going to try to make it about candidate versus candidate and separate Pence from Trump. Say, look, Mike Pence, you're reasonable, you're conservative, but you're not crazy, and that guy over there that you're defending is crazy.
Over under that Tim Kaine speaks Spanish?
Over under. I think Tim Kaine could throw in some Spanish there. Yeah, I mean, I think he'll try and make him essentially Mike Trump. I totally agree with that, and I'm interested to see how the moderation of this debate works too. You've moderated a lot of debates, obviously, but this is we saw with Lester Holt, a real hands-off approach. It'll be interesting to see how the moderator lets these two candidates go. Does she really jump in and try and essentially litigate the rules and keep them in lanes, or frankly, do we have a much more unscripted exchange?
Yeah, a lot of people don't know Elaine Quijano with CBS. She's a great lady. I've worked with her a number of times at the White House and other places. I expect her to do well, but she's not well known either. So, Ed, the challenge
big
is...
cast unknowns tonight.
Yeah.
You know, what is it? 25.6 million is the number to beat. That was the least watched VP debate back in '96, the Gore-Kemp exchange.
You're not doing anything for us here on the tease.
I'm just saying.
On the tease.
And then 70 million was the Biden-Palin exchange. So, you know, somewhere in between, I do my homework.
But I mean, besides Lloyd Benson and Dan Quayle,
that's right,
and Sarah Palin and Joe Biden, can any...
Well, Geraldine Ferraro, George Bush in 84.
But I mean, were there moments that moved the needle?
I actually think this could, because look, what does the Trump campaign need? It needs a kind of intellectual framework to explain what it's about. And the candidate is spotty at doing that at best, and I think Pence potentially could be pretty good.
Yeah, I think he's really got the opportunity to reframe this in a pretty fundamental way. I mean, turning the discussion that's been nonstop over the past week on just one issue of taxes. Here's a chance for the campaign to turn the corner, have a fresh start coming into Sunday, and I think if Mike Pence is, going to step up and do the job. He's ready.
Change. That's what he keeps hitting.
Yeah,
I think so.
Change.
But I tell you, if all he's doing is shoring up conservative concern with this ticket, what does that tell you? That there's really no room for growth here. There wasn't much growth last week necessarily. Maybe her numbers came back and doubts were assuaged. But I mean, if all he's doing tonight is reassuring Republicans, that's not much of a good sign
that needs to be done.
It is.
Still not getting as many.
That's the point. Like, how ironic that is what he has to do tonight. He has to appeal to the base.
I bet they're trying not to make news. That's my bet. But we'll see. Gentlemen, thank you.